Hey you, it's true, with a first look at the new Dark Cleopatra, but make no mistake, this is actually the Earth Cleopatra, not to be confused with her first version, which was actually of the Dark element. Actually, I have no idea why Sixer thought it was a good idea to name her this way, but it is what it is. We have this Dark Earth Cleopatra, and she brings something new to the table, and that is lethal poison. We are going to cover this during her active skills. Her speed is just slightly higher than her prior version at 397. That can probably be called mid at this point. She has 2 instant skills, and all of her skills either produce a lot of spirit or cost a lot of spirit. So let's check it out. First up, we have the Draining Shadow, producing 2 spirit, costing 50 time units and granting 1 enemy the Mega Poison status effect for 200 time units, and granting Earth, Dark Cleopatra, Stealth and a Stealth Shield. Additionally, this steals up to 2 spirit from enemies, so this skill alone might already produce 4 spirit for you. The Stealth and Stealth Shield as a kind of self-purify and additional protection is nice. And the Mega Poison can be targeted. As a reminder, Mega Poison deals 20 times the damage of normal poison. But after Cthulhu's recent release, I think everybody got to know Mega Poison quite well. This is not where the Mega Poison stops either. We can go to Dread Fumes next. Another active skill that gives 2 spirit. And this one is actually instant, but it is only unlocked whenever a non-conjured enemy on the battlefield dies while Cleopatra is on that field. Why is that? Well, because it is quite a strong skill, granting all non-burning allies stealth, a stealth shield, and healing them for 500% of Cleo's attack. Additionally, as I promised, this skill also giving potentially a lot of spirit, not just the 2 straight from the get-go, but also gaining you 1 spirit for each poisoned or sleeping enemy on the battlefield. So this skill might even produce up to 6 spirit for you. And I mean, the prior active skill also has kind of a potential of a net 6 spirit effect compared to your enemy. Well, after this kind of additional spirit is triggered, each non-burning enemy is also randomly granted either Mega Poison for 200 time units or Cursed Sleep for 200 time units. This part is a bit reminiscent of Bright Reset, and we can already see in the first 2 skills a bit of a burn weakness opening here for this Cleopatra, which is somewhat natural for all the Earth units released at this point. So those were the 2 skills that possibly produce a lot of spirit for you. Then we will have the other 2 skills which both cost 3 spirit. First up, we have the Dread Serpent. This skill has a base cost of 120 time units but attacks all enemies for 100% damage, but it deals 600% damage instead to all poisoned or sleeping enemies, ignoring damage reduction effects. And also, why not? All non-burning, non-sleeping enemies hit are then also granted the Mega Poison for 200 time units. This is also a nightmare skill, so any sleeping enemies that are attacked by this will not wake up. And then the final skill that is called Creeping Death. As I said before, it costs 3 spirit, and I also announced that we have 2 instant skill. So this one is the second one. 1 time unit cost for 600% damage to 1 enemy, and if that target is not burning, they are then granted lethal poison for 999 time units. Yes, this enemy might have this status effect for a while unless they get rid of it somehow. And that's not all that easy. Maybe they also die before that. She can only use this Creeping Death skill if she has stealth, and then it becomes locked for 150 time units. Quite a long time, but yeah, they are introducing this new status effect, so they might be especially cautious. So what does this lethal poison really do? It deals 2 times the damage of normal poison, so it is actually only half as potent as super poison and even only 10% as potent as mega poison in terms of dealing damage, but it has some special properties. This cannot be purified. It can only be overridden by burn or stealth. So sleep will not override this. In fact, the enemy might get sleep immune from getting this status, which I can certainly imagine some situations where this actually helps the enemy. But luckily, this isn't where it stops, because lethal poison actually ignores passive skills or effects of active skills that would prevent a target from being defeated. So this is the first poison that can actually ignore things like hold ground plus. However, there comes an additional condition or some restriction to that, because passive skills that specifically prevent defeat from poison or non-attack damage, lethal poison can also not ignore. So a perfect example for this would be Percival, who will not die to lethal poison. While certainly interesting, and especially considering it's the first ever poison that cannot be purified, although there are these burn and stealth exceptions, which is a bit of a bummer for her. The damage isn't all that big, but then again, it is an attack that already deals 600% damage to one enemy. It does not ignore anything though, so armor is definitely a consideration. But if it is an enemy that doesn't have any armor or protection like that, then the enemy might already be low HP, and the lethal poison, even though it only deals 2 times as much as normal poison, might be enough to finish that enemy off. And also, to be fair, it is an instant skill, so she might just pull off another attack straight afterwards. Though Mega Poison will not override this lethal poison either. So after these very long active skill descriptions, this is actually the first time I think that I had to use 4 different pictures to display all the text of each skill in one picture. So from that we go to one of the shortest passives this year, or maybe even in the last 2 years, which is Cold-Blooded. It packs quite some punch, but the description is sweet and short. Unless Dark Earth Cleopatra, I'm still a bit, I think I'm just gonna call her the Earth Cleopatra, honestly. So unless Earth Cleopatra is burning, she has 75% damage reduction from attacks and is immune to stun effects. So this is very, very big. So unless you run her into a burn team, that is already quite something to consider. 75% permanent damage reduction and immunity to stun effects. They are trying to have her as a hard counter to stun teams, to storm units. On top of that, this passive also gives her a hold ground, just a normal hold ground though, but at least it's better than an endure. Speaking of temporary effects, let's move on to her next passive that is called Plague Queen. She enters the battle with a poison ward, a sleep ward, stealth, and a stealth shield. She will also have her time unit cost reduced by 40% while there is a poisoned or sleeping enemy. So this is a very, very low requirement, I think, to really push down those TU. And I think she will only use her very long skill, Dread Serpent, when that condition is fulfilled, very likely. And so then this only costs like 60 or so time units. I mean, there are other skills. I mean, 2 of them are instant, so this doesn't really affect them. But for the Draining Shadow, of course, it's nice to have this only be 30 time units, producing possibly like 4 spirit, granting mega poison. So yeah, that is definitely a good thing for these kind of time units. And now it gets more specific. Each time an enemy with cursed sleep, mega poison or lethal poison, so only the status effects that she can actually cause on enemies. This does not include normal sleep, this does not include super poison, importantly, and of course normal poison as well. But yeah, each time such an enemy with such a status effect gets the turn, she heals for 30% of her max HP and steals up to 1 spirit, okay? So yeah, if the enemy team has 1 spirit or more, she will steal 1 spirit from the enemy team at the end of that turn. So definitely some nice spirit steal in her skill set. The new lethal poison as well. We have yet again another earth hybrid that tries to bring sleep and poisoned together like we saw with Cerulean Bright Reset before. And yet again, I'm not 100% sure if it's gonna work out for her, at least in terms of her mass appeal. Don't get me wrong, in a world without fire, or rather in a server where burn is not at all prevalent, this Earth Cleopatra could do really well. Now against stun units in particular, she can do quite well, which are pretty meta right now. But yeah, she only has a normal hold ground. She comes with some wards, and yes, she has the stealth shield that she can very easily apply to herself. But I am a bit worried for her because of the previous Cthulhu release, and stun usually gets combined with poison, I guess, in many setups. So a poison stun team consisting of Cthulhu and some stun units might still be fine. Cthulhu might not be able to apply the mega poison on her straight away, but she might get the turn much quicker and more often than Earth Cleopatra. And while Cleopatra has the nightmare effect on her attack all skill, I do have to say it's a bit odd that she didn't get the noxious sleep. Maybe it is a bit of a try to also make her viable in a sleep team, but honestly it is a bit hard to see how that will work. But maybe I just lack the imagination right now. Speaking of the previous release Cthulhu, I think the combination with Dark Cleopatra, now I said it again, I mean Earth Cleopatra, the fallen pharaoh. So yeah, that combination between these two is definitely something that can be quite interesting. And lethal poison can be a counter against certain units, not stealth units though, most likely, in the most common scenarios. And the conditions are a bit tough. The skill cannot ignore guardians, so that is a bit of a disadvantage when you compare it to other recent execute skills. 150 time unit lock I think is also a bit tough, so that means she will mostly rely on Dread Serpent to deal damage to enemies in the meantime. And yeah, she also needs to get the turn while being stealthed after that unlocks again. And given that Dread Serpent is such a long skill, even with the TU reduction, we might see scenarios where she only can use Creeping Death less than every 200 time units. And then you have the high spirit cost on top of that. But at least, you know, the plus is it is an instant kill. Taking a different example, I still prefer the Scorched Earth skill from Lebu compared to this Creeping Death. Though, of course, there are definitely different applications for this. At low stats, I'm very worried about her survivability. So this is, I think, if not from her active skill side directly, because even that could give you some value. I mean, lethal poison might just finish off some units that your other DPS might not finish off by themselves. But yeah, nevertheless, I think this is a unit where you should probably go all in if you really want to have her. So that would be a full awakening. Looking at the last 3 releases, I think she is definitely the unit that has the lowest value to offer when you only field her with 1 copy, though it's still not that bad because of her first 2 skills, possibly generating a lot of spirit for you. As I said before, because of the normal hold ground and the armor that kind of makes her survive, the low stats are a concern here for sure. Now in terms of teams who could use her, I see poison teams, sleep teams with a bit of a stomach, but maybe there are some nice build ideas that I haven't thought about yet. I mean, she wasn't released yet, and you can also combine her with stun, with stealth, of course, given that she is a bit of a stealth unit herself, and she can also roll with generalist units. Definitely, as always, I would say the recommendation for an Earth unit is that if you run any burn, or if you main burn, then you can easily skip this unit unless it is for fellowships, in this case one with Napoleon. Don't think I have anything else to say, though it has been quite the taxing work week, so maybe I forgot something. I'll let you know in the comments if something important pops up. But in any case, or in any other case, stay tuned for some top level arena footage showcasing this new SSR. I don't think she can reach the heights of the first Dark Cleopatra, but let's see. Thanks to Helios for the skill animations shown in this video. If you like this video, hit that like button to let YouTube know that as well. See you soon, and as always, thanks for watching.